Welcome back to Belfield on Broadway. We're here celebrating the story of Billy Elliot and the stars within it. We spoke to Carol. Next, we turn our attention to Philip Whitchurch, who plays Dad and does it beautifully. Congratulations on this.
Thank you very much, Alex. I really enjoy this show. I really enjoy doing it. It's Dad revisited for me.
What I love about it is I've seen this about 7 million times with about 600 different Billys and 14 different dads. Yeah. You bring a real rawness to this, because I'm from the north as well, and it's not always nice, is it?
No, and I think the idea of Dad that I think was important for me was a real kind of tough, hard man who loves Billy despite that. So he's not good on affection, he's not good on physical contact. But I think by the end of the play, hopefully, the audience gets that this is a man that loves both his sons deeply. And Billy's discovery or liberation through art is in an odd kind of way his father's liberation as well, because his father, through seeing what his son is and what he can do, is liberated as well. He discovers art. He discovers the power of art in his love for his son, really.
And again, what you have to bring to this is a very hard man from a hard place in the northeast, but a man who's hurt. I mean, that's the reason he's probably so angry.
Yeah, he's definitely a wounded man in more ways than one. Not only because the community he lives in is crumbling and is never going to be rebuilt, but also he's a man at the end of his tether because he's lost the anchor in his life, which is his wife and the woman that he loved, and he's stuck with two growing boys and a grandmother who's lost her marbles.
Well, we were just talking about that to Carol backstage, and she brings great levity to the story, because without that it could be a bit depressing, really.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of somebody with kind of limited memory retention is awful, but there's a wonderfully kind of humorous and bleak side to it. But in the end, it's wonderful, because I think the spirit of the woman shines through. She's a wonderful character, and despite you kind of wonder how much she knows herself about her own condition. But no, Carol's lovely in it. She brings a wonderful quality to it.
You've got a tough job because you're doing the show 8 times a week, but not necessarily with the same Billy Elliot. I presume each of the kids brings something different, because they're all unique talents with different skills. Some of them are better singers, some of them are better dancers. At the end of the day, though, they're just incredible kids.
They are, and I was trying to work out. I try not to think about it, but how many Billys have actually done it with? Because I did about the first 7-8 Billys in London, and I've done about 5 here. And as you say, they're all different. They're all uniquely talented. And I mean, the boys I'm doing with it here are just so lovely. I mean, and breathtakingly talented. Well, I mean, the two Australian boys, 2 American boys, they're all great and all different, yeah.
You were in the West End, as you alluded to there. I've got to ask you the question, how do Broadway and West End casts compare?
The casts, there's nothing really to choose between them. There really isn't. I mean, I doing it in London, I used to think, oh God, we'll go to Broadway, and the idea of Broadway, all singing, all dancing. To be fair, I think the West End side of it holds up quite well. I think obviously the Broadway cast have a more difficult job to do, because they're once more removed from the subject matter, and I actually think they do an incredible job. Really, I mean, lovely company. I say that with all heart, because coming over here as the only Brit, you do feel a bit of an outsider, and I wouldn't say you feel threatened, because from day one I was made to feel part of this family, and thank God for that, because I've had a great time. I've got 8 weeks left before I go back, and it's been an absolute joy. But they are a lovely, talented company.
All right, we'll take your big song in the show. We're here at Billy Elliot, actually sat in the theatre where the audience normally sit, talking to Philip Whitchurch today. We'll take your big number in the show, and then we'll find out about you. We're backstage here at Billy Elliot, talking to the big star, Philip, who's been flown in from the West End. That doesn't happen very often. Why you?
Well, that's a question you'd have to ask Stephen. I know Stephen enjoyed what I did in the show, and hopefully and not just the tough side, but you bring the other side, which is the pathos and some humour to the part. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those parts, and hopefully it's the part that's that I can do well. It's a part I can do well. So I think it's not an easy part to fill, I don't think. And Stephen came back to me, and I'd always wanted to work on Broadway. And once it opened here, I thought, well, that's it. It's it'll be American Dads doing Billy's, doing the dad. But Greg was taking some leave of absence, Greg Jabara, who was playing it here, and there was a 3-month window, and so Stephen phoned me and said, come and do it. So it was perfect.
Are you having fun?
Yeah, having a great, loving New York, and now the weather's warmer. I've bought a second-hand bike so I can get around.
Tell us your story about where you come from in the UK and how you've ended up on the Broadway stage today.
Okay, well, very briefly, I'm originally from Liverpool, although I live in London now. But I got into the business back in the 70s, and I came into it in a strange route. But I started doing theatre first, and because that's all I ever wanted to do. And then, like lots of actors, you drift into television and film, but I always keep coming back to theatre because it's my first love. It's what I enjoy doing. I think it's the only place in this business where you really feel like a family here. All the kids going past, part of my family. You do. It's like a huge extended family. I mean, and when you do 8 shows a week in, week out, you've got not just the people on stage, backstage, you've got the people front of house. It is just like a big family, and I love that.
And more than anything with this show, I presume it's got to be fun backstage, because at the end of the day, these are kids doing an adult's job. Moreover, in an adult's play, there's some pretty strong language in this, and it's not a pleasant, nice Disney musical, is it?
No, it's not. And a lot of the bad language comes from the kids, which I actually think, that's what's interesting about that is, I think in the UK, audiences find that far more funny than they do over here. But I think it was really important to keep that language in the play because it gives it a grittiness and a uniqueness that you don't get in musicals. And I think once an audience gets over that, there is a rawness about it, but there's a huge charm and heart behind the show. And in the end, I always think that's what an audience takes away.
What I loved about you in this was how you made it so real. Do you think coming from Liverpool had something to do with that? Because like the Northeast, the Northwest has had difficult times and Liverpool's struggled over the years. Yeah. I mean, it's got to give you something inside, hasn't it?
Yeah, I do. I think lots of those big northern towns, there's a similarity to them. I was fortunate in my first job, I worked in Sunderland. So I picked up the accent very early on in my career. And so I felt I was kind of one step ahead when I auditioned for this part because I could hear the music. I mean the actual music of the language of the accent in my head. But yeah, I think all those big northern towns, Leeds, Manchester, Liverpool, Newcastle, even Glasgow and Scotland, there's a grittiness about them which is similar, I think. And the backgrounds of those people, I can easily identify with those kind of communities.
The accent is a bit like yodeling, isn't it?
Well, it's a bit like yodeling, but it's not quite like yodeling. But it does have a rhythm and a music to it.
Philip Whitchurch, thank you so much for talking to us here on Broadway. Good luck in the show. You're really tremendous. And if you get a chance to see one show here, this is definitely it. Thanks for talking to me.
Thanks, Alex. Cheers. Thank you very much.